All right, Next Level podcast listeners, we are back, and this week I'm joined by my good buddy and local Phoenician. Would that be the right word? Steve Trang. How's it going, buddy?
Going great, going great. How are you?
Doing good, man. Can't complain. Well, dude, I'm glad I got the chance to flip the script on you and interview you this time. Last time you and I were together, we're not sitting in the same room today, but doing this, it was I was the one on the hot seat, and this time it's you. So I'm excited
Yeah,
to do this.
yeah, that was about a year ago. I can't believe it's been it's been a long time.
Yeah, it has been. It's been a minute for sure. Well, dude, I'm
Yeah.
I'm excited to get back and just chat with you. Like you're doing some big things. You started the real estate disruptors movement. You've got a huge following not only on your podcast and show, but just kind of with what you're doing with the investing side of things in real estate and your brokerage. And so I thought it'd be kind of cool to learn a little about you and your background. And why don't we start, man? Tell us like how long you've been in real estate. What was the thing that made you decide to get into real estate to begin with?
Well, remember, I started the same time as you, right? May of 2007. Um, stupid timing, but
Crazy time for sure.
but that's what we did. But the reason why I jumped into it was I always knew I wasn't designed to be an employee. Like I always knew I was going to start a company or be at least an independent contractor. I just knew working a 9 to 5 for the rest of my life was not in the stars. I knew that before I even started working in corporate America.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember and we probably talked about this before, but like before I discovered real estate, I sort of knew the same thing. I knew that I couldn't be an employee the rest of my life.
Yeah.
That just wasn't going to work for me in the long run. And ultimately I found my way to real estate, and then realized that was a business, though I didn't know about it at the time. I was just getting
Well,
real.
because it doesn't look like a business on the outside, right?
Well, it really doesn't, because let's face it, most of our peers don't behave that way.
Right. Very much
So,
so. And
so
the
man,
TV does not make it look very impressive either.
well, TV is all about the glitz and the glamour, and the $1 million listings. If only
Yeah.
things were like that. Well, okay, so May of 2007, and for those of you who don't know or maybe live under a rock or whatever, but here in the Phoenix area where Steve and I both reside and practice real estate, man, things were falling apart. I remember the listing count just going up by the day, and the prices going down literally by the day. So
hmm
tell me about your first couple months, maybe even your first year in real estate. Like, what was that like? How did you, like, did you find success right away? Did you struggle at first? Like, what happened?
I had a little bit of success right off the bat because I got in right at the very tail end of condo conversions. And so I sold a couple of those condo conversions, unfortunately, to friends and family. But then after that, there was a struggle for a long time because I didn't have structure. And, I want to say it was time management, but really there was just no structure whatsoever when I started. There was no you prospect for this many hours a day, and this is how many conversations, this is how many showings, how many people get qualified. There was no KPIs, there were no metrics. It was just like, okay, now that you're licensed, go find clients and go sell houses.
So let me ask you this: like, you say that because I'm assuming you've got a lot of structure in your life and business today. So where did you ultimately find that from? Was it a
The
mentor
metrics,
or a class? Like, what was it that
uh,
helped you find structure?
so what was it? It's the four,
The
it's
40X.
40X, four disciplines of execution.
Yeah.
So four disciplines of execution is when I first heard about it. And it's not like it wasn't written in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. It's written in there, but it's not as drilled into you as I think four disciplines of execution, and then traction, and just all these other people that are running major operations. Like, these are metrics, and it's even more so like if wholesaling is something I'm really passionate about right now, and you meet with all these wholesalers and they're running, it's pretty much a boiler room, and it's either get in or get out. There's no lovey-dovey. Hey, you're having a rough day. Why don't you go ahead and take the rest of the day off? There's none of that. It's like, did you hit your freaking metrics or not?
Yeah, there's no doubt. Like I know, wholesalers, and for those of you who don't, Steve, let's do this, man, because most of my listeners
Sure.
are kind of the more traditional agent, maybe more
Hmm.
of the traditional, also the mortgage lenders as well. So give us just simple concept. What's a wholesaler?
A wholesaler is someone that finds homes that are distressed, disrepair, behind on payments, whatever, buying them for anywhere from 65 to 75% of market value, and selling it to a flipper prior to close for around 80 to 85% of market value.
Got it. So a wholesaler goes out, finds a deal, doesn't actually do the flip themselves, but flips it, if you will, to somebody who's then going to go kind of do that work, like the physical work to make it like the
Right.
pristine top of the market type of home.
Yeah. So like when we were in real estate school and they talked about annual assignee, that's what in a wholesaler. So you got a lot of these we buy ugly houses guys. These guys um, they're wholesalers for the most part. Or if you look at going back to TV, the general image is ambulance chasers, vultures, people that are preying on these people in probate or pre-foreclosure. That's pretty much what wholesaling is you're the one that's going after distressed sellers.
Okay. So that's good. So I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but something I want to point out, you talked about 40X, 4 disciplines of execution. Number one, I agree with you. Like that book really drives home having those indicators, those lead and lag indicators. And for anybody, and honestly, any business, doesn't matter real estate or not, I can't think of many books that are better than that really drive home how to really get in tune with what makes your business go. So I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
wasn't missed. 40X, and you also mentioned the book Traction. So
Yeah.
those two books are both phenomenal business books, and I highly recommend it. Every single real estate and mortgage professional, title, anybody out there who is related to business at all should really read both of those books.
Yeah. And I run 3 level 10 meetings by definition from Traction a week, right? So I got my brokerage, my team, and my wholesaling operation. We run a level 10 meeting every single week based off Traction, tracking KPIs and so on.
Gotcha. So you've got a real estate brokerage here in town. You said you've got a
Mm-hmm.
team. Is that like a traditional real estate team, kind of more like what I do?
Yeah, Steve Trang Group.
Okay,
Yep,
and
exactly.
then you've got the wholesale
Well, not exactly,
operation.
not as good as yours, but
Better.
it's
I'm
comparable.
sure.
It's similar.
I know it's better. Don't let him fool you, people. So okay. So you got these 3 major businesses that you're running, and I
Mm-hmm.
noticed too. Obviously, you've also got this real estate disruptors thing going on. You've got the OfferFast app where
Yes.
you're helping wholesalers with that as well. Other wholesalers. It's like you're doing a lot as
Mm-hmm.
well in the community of real estate and real estate wholesalers, in addition to running your own businesses. So like, how do you divide up your time between all those different things, first of all?
So I think part of it is I was the oldest of 6 boys, so delegation is something, it's just a natural skill you get, right? Because mom says, hey, make sure this place is clean when I get back. And you go to the younger brother and say, hey, mom said she wanted you to clean this,
So are you saying shit rolls downhill? Is that what you're saying, Steve?
Well, being the oldest, being the biggest, there's definitely some benefits to that. So I got a lot of reps growing up in
Nice.
delegating. So I am naturally lazy. So a lot of people tell me I'm a very hard worker, but I am naturally lazy. And so I find people that are really good at doing what I want done. So I'm a visionary by the definition. If you look at Gino Wickman's book, Rocket Fuel, which is that goes along with Traction. I'm a visionary by definition. I like to have things. I know what I want, and the challenge for me is just finding the right people to do it. But man, you want me to get it done? Good luck. I'm the bottleneck every time.
I'm the same way. I'm definitely the same way. So let me ask you this, because now, is this natural or was it learned? Do you think it's your upbringing being the oldest of 6, because a lot of people I know in real estate specifically, they have enough business to start to grow a business, but the thought of having somebody else do it, because God forbid it not get done right or perfect, like scares the hell out of them, and it freezes people from ever growing to whatever their next level is. So is that just are you just a product of your upbringing, or is there some skill and some behavior there that you had to learn and work on?
I think there's definitely some nature and nurture aspects of it, right? So I think, there could be, I'm just wired this way, but I can say for sure, I was always a procrastinator. So that part is not a learned behavior. But then also I signed up for Craig Proctor coaching back around 2009, 2010, because I was an REO agent and I knew that was ending. So, the progression I had was a single agent, then a short sell specialist, and then an REO agent. And once REO was down, it's like, I needed to figure something out, because it's either that or go get a job. And so I got into coaching, which was scary at first, but was the best thing I ever did. And that's when the transition came from being a real estate agent to a business owner that happens to sell real estate. And that helped me set a lot of my mindset correctly for delegating.
Gotcha. Was that something that the Craig Proctor program worked on specifically, or did it just kind of force you into it because your business was growing?
It forces you into it because there's that just one model, right? It's just like the MREA. There's like that one model. This is what you do. Now, does everyone follow that model? Not really, but there's pretty much an idea, like this is how you run your business. And Craig Proctor, they have, you basically copy Craig Proctor's model. He was top 10 for 15 consecutive years for RE/MAX worldwide. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Right.
That dude's a direct response master. There's no doubt about it. And
yeah.
I know so many successful agents that have come up through his coaching programs.
Yeah. So you take that and it says you have to delegate, because the question is, would you rather do it or would you rather have other people do it and get it done 80% satisfactorily and have more free time? There's Darren Hardy is someone I look up to a lot. I've consumed all of his content. And one of the things he says is, maybe you love going to the listing appointments. Maybe you love putting the listing up. Maybe you love doing all these things your way. It's your craft, it's your art. But do you love doing those things more than getting a massage on the beach? And I was like, no, I'd rather get the massage on the beach.
That's a good way of putting it. Tim, the first time I really thought about it was Tim Ferriss. He just said, listen, if you can hire someone to do it at 80% as good as you, it's no longer worth you doing, and
Correct.
I'm the same way. And maybe I'm like you, maybe I'm naturally lazy or naturally a procrastinator. So I'm good delegating as well. But I remember reading that in Tim Ferriss's first book, For Our Work Week, and thinking, yeah, I get that. I see the point in doing it that way versus holding on or finding someone that can do it as good or better than you. So that's
yeah.
cool.
And the first time I listened to that book, it blew my mind as well. I mean, that wasn't very much an eye-opening book.
Yeah, that book was a game changer for a lot of people, quite frankly. So,
yep.
Okay, so you've got the three different businesses with the brokerage and with the team and with the wholesaling. Tell me, like, is there one that is like your baby that you love to do more? Do you spend more time in one of them? Is it like, I guess what I'm saying is, how are you, I know you got great people around you, but like, how do you decide what Steve does, like in the amount of time that you put into these businesses?
So I would say, so there's more than three businesses now, but I would say the energy is put into wholesaling, because that's where it's the most profitable. And then other than that, is pouring into the people. That's where my passion is developing people and watching people get better. One of the things I really enjoy is at my brokerage, I brought in a lot of people that made $30,000 a year, and now they're making $300,000 a year. So that's the kind of stuff I'm passionate about. So I spend time, probably more time than I should, in meetings where I'm mentoring somebody. That's probably where I spend most of my time. So I don't really have a divvied up, I'm going to set aside this much time for this business, this much time for that business. I really have more on my calendar. I booked off. So like every Monday at 5:30 till about 7:30, we meet with the developers for the app. That's it. Every Wednesday, 2:00, that's the podcast. That's it. Every Tuesday, 1:30 in my brokerage, we're coaching all the younger agents, newer agents. That's it. So I think I time blocked what I need to do has to get done. And that's kind of how I have it divvied up. I don't have like, I'm going to spend 40% time in the wholesale, 20% time in this. There's not that so much.
That's cool. I behave very, very similarly as well. There's a few things that are just, they're going to happen these days and these times, and everything else is kind of like fighting fires, or whatever, whatever it happens to be, or whatever happens to pop up. And, that's definitely a cool thing. One of the things that stuck out to me is one of your legacy goal about creating 100 millionaires. Like, where did that come from? Is that because of the Zig Ziglar quote that I know is a big deal to you? Or like, what is it that drives you to want to make or help 100 different people become millionaires?
So I read Think and Grow Rich when I first got into real estate. I want to say in 2007. And one of the things that always stuck out to me in that book was a journalist asked Andrew Carnegie, you got 18 millionaires that work for you. How is that even possible? And he said to her, you're asking the wrong question. It's not how can I afford to have 18 millionaires working for me? Is these guys were not millionaires when they started working for me, right? So when I started the brokerage, I said, you know what, my goal is to just do what Carnegie did, create 18 millionaires. But when I started the podcast, we raised it because now I have national reach. Let's create 100 millionaires. So it was something that's always stuck with me from reading Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
That's awesome, man. I love that. Tell me more about the app. So we danced around a little bit, but tell me about the OfferFast Homes app. You mentioned like you got a 2-hour meeting for that every single week. Tell me about the app. Like, what does it do? What's the purpose of it? And what's your big vision with that?
So the purpose of it is to allow wholesalers to do an off-market MLS, because right now I am sure your emails and probably most listeners' emails that are licensed realtors are getting bombarded with random voicemails that the phone didn't ring, text messages, or emails of properties that you don't care about, right? And so I think that maybe realtors would care if they had opted in to looking at these off-market properties. And so what we're trying to do is create more or less an MLS of off-market properties all in one centralized location. So every wholesaler in the community could put it in the one app, and any realtor that actually wants to do a search, they got a buyer that's looking for, a 3-2, let's just say hypothetically in Chandler for under 250. Well, you can't find anything in MLS. Let me just check out the app and see what's available off-market. And you can do a search within the app to find that property.
That's awesome, man. So give me an idea. Like, do you see that? Is this something that's going to be like a long-term project for you over the next 10, 20, 30 years, or however long you're in real estate? Is this something that you think that maybe you can sell at one point? Like, what's the end game with the OfferFast Homes app?
So, like everything else, you got all these different disruptions. I'm hoping that this will somehow disrupt the way that real estate is done at some point, right? Because if this is an MLS right now, is for wholesalers and flippers, then, sorry agents, but eventually the flippers would go to that app versus like calling an agent. Because think about when, I'll give you an example for me, right? I remember I had an agent come into me, or an investor, it was a Realty Track lead. If you remember Realty Track,
oh, yeah.
It was a Realty Track lead. They came into the office, they did buyer consult, and the guy's like, I'm looking for homes that are 70% of market value. And he's like, but I don't trust real estate agents because they take them up before we get to them. And I was like, that's ridiculous. Why would a real estate agent do that? Definitely we do that now. However, at the time, we're like, no, for sure, I'd rather get the 3%. And so I think that, these newer investors that come out of these seminars, Armando, whatever, Longo, you have these seminars that come out, and these flippers, there's a lot of, we call them seminar buyers, right? I don't know if that's what you call them in your office. That's what we call them. And, and so instead of wasting the agent's time finding deals that don't exist, especially in today where we have only a month and a half of supply in the MLS, these deals don't exist. However, in the app, they may find those deals. Not guaranteed, but they're more likely to find it there, and they won't be wasting the agent's time.
That's awesome. Yeah. There's nothing better than listening to someone who just came off of a seminar going, I want a good deal, and I want an agent that's going to work hard for me.
Yeah.
Every time I hear those two lines, like good deal and it's just an agent that's willing to work hard for me, I'm like, oh my God, you went to a seminar this weekend. Of course. Yes. I would love to make you rich for pennies on the dollar. Let me do that for you. Yeah. So let me drop everything now, with all my serious clients, and help you
Yeah.
get rich. No doubt about that. That's cool. Actually, I really like that idea. How long have you had that app?
We published it, I want to say April of last year. We've been working on it for 2.5 years now. So, we're only in Arizona today. In 2 weeks, we're launching it in Texas. I'm going to be in Houston on stage speaking in front of hopefully 1,000 wholesalers. And on that, we're doing the launch in Texas. And if that goes smooth, then we're going to go nationwide in November, December. And then from there, we'll see what happens. I may be drowning in customer support tickets. Hopefully not. They have to pull me in for resources.
Yeah, man, there's no doubt, like there's a whole lot that goes with it. I hope it goes smooth for you, but let's face it, it's technology.
Yeah.
You're going to have some problems. So,
Yeah.
we got this out of the way now before you even launch into Texas, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to get on your calendar. I'd be probably too busy with the support tickets. So that's very cool. So let me ask you this. So at the time of this recording, it's, we're coming up on the fourth quarter in 2019. What's on your mind? Obviously this app is part of it as we round the corner from 2019 into 2020. Like, what are the couple things business-wise that you're most focused on today, or maybe most looking forward to over the next 12 to 24 months?
I would say the biggest things so I started consulting about May, so coming up in 4 months now. So I started mentoring some of these other agents and investors throughout the country. So I'm hoping to continue to blow that up. We've got 25 students today. Maybe we get to 100 students and cap it off there. So I'm hoping to blow that up some more. The app is a huge thing, because if that goes the way we want it to go, then, because you see Zillow, Open Door, OfferPad, all these billion-dollar companies that aren't profitable. I mean, I want to be one of those non-profitable billion-dollar companies. So apps number 2, and then continue wholesaling. It's just something that it's pretty cool to watch people around me succeed through investing, and I want to continue to lift the people around me.
Hey, listen, let me ask you a question, man. So, like, I know what I think personally, but my crystal ball is broken. I don't know shit about the future, other than the future usually repeats the past eventually, right? So when the market's not so good, whether that's in 24 months or 5 years from now, it doesn't matter. But at some point, the market's not going to be as hot. There won't be as much demand for housing. What's going to happen to the wholesale? Like, how do you see your peers, not necessarily your peers, but everyone else who's wholesaling at some level, because
in the industry.
Like, I know so many people in the last probably 24 months, maybe 36 at the most, that have just like abandoned everything they knew about real estate and kind of have tried to go all in on wholesaling. Some of them successful, to varying degrees of success for sure. But what do you see happening to the wholesale side of the industry?
I look at it just like in traditional real estate, right? So when you and I got in 2007, everyone else left. It was great, right?
Yep.
I mean, it sucked on our bottom line initially, but look at where we are, because we cut our teeth at that time.
Yep.
So when the market slows down, I think the wholesalers are going to do even better, because back in 2007, wholesalers are making 30, 40K on a deal versus 10, 15K on a deal right now. So wholesalers are going to be better off. It's going to be just like everything else. There's going to be fewer, but they're going to be more successful.
Okay.
Right. The rich get richer.
Okay. That's what I was looking to clarify. So a guy like you're going to do better, but some of these people that are like, they're kind of half-assing it, for lack of a better word, like they probably did with their real estate career. They're going to have trouble then too, just like I would as a regular agent if I'm not like totally all in and making sure I get better at my craft, right? 100%.
Remember all those REO agents that gave us crap, like they were just rude to us on the other line, right? Do you remember those agents?
Dude, I have on my second deal ever. Guy was a total asshole. I will not say his name because I just won't do it. But I'll tell you what, I still remember this guy's name, and every time I think about him, here we are 12 years later, I think I want to punch that asshole. Like him and his team were so rude, and his broker was so not helpful that every time I hear his name, I still cringe 12 years later. So I remember those people.
So, but what happened when it slowed down? now they're updating their LinkedIn profiles. They became lenders. They became, I think, like they started, I think I saw one became like a landscaping business. Like, so those that are kind of dabbling, when the market shifts, you know, what's the expression? When the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked.
Yeah.
That's going to happen again in wholesaling.
So, okay. So I already admitted I don't have a crystal ball, but do you? Like, what do you see happening over the next 12, 24 months in the real estate industry?
I think, and I think it's political. I think it's too political, but I think the election is going to have a very strong impact on which direction we go.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
So,
You know, I think if Trump wins, we're going to continue to have either steadiness or incline, whatever. But, you know, for better or worse, I think one party is more helpful for the economy. No matter what you think about everything else, they're just better for the economy.
sure.
And the other party is worse for the economy, no matter what the other policies are. I think you can't argue as far as economic. I think one party is more beneficial than the other. And I think if Trump wins, we're going to either continue going up or stay steady. And I think if the other party wins, then we're going to have a decline sooner. I'm not saying we're not going to have decline under Trump. I think we can't continue this trend.
Sure.
It has to slow down. It has to decline. I just think it'll happen sooner if the other party wins.
Cool. So you're kind of like a wait and see, let's see who wins the election before we start planning out, you know, too far beyond that. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I get you. Well, cool. So let me ask you this, because you're coaching agents all the time, whether they're wholesalers or actual retail agents. And one of the questions I really like to ask people is about like the stuff that they do to help other people succeed. So like, what are your top 3 pieces of advice for just kind of kicking more ass? So like, let's say an agent in your brokerage or a wholesaler in your network, maybe one of your listeners to your podcast and in your community just comes to you and says, Steve, like, I want to have a better life. I want to have a better business. Like, what are the top 3 things they should be doing?
Boy. So I think the first thing is personal development. I'm very passionate about personal development. I've spent more than a couple $100,000 on personal development myself, right? So I'm very passionate about that. And Jim Rohn says, you know, in order to become a millionaire, first you need to be a millionaire in your mindset. So that's number one. And without that, it's just nothing else is going to work. Number 2 is you have to hire, because you can only there's only so much you can do on your own. You can't go too far on your own. You can go far. You can live a pretty good life on your own, but eventually you're going to burn out. It's impossible not to. Number 3, surround yourself with the right people.
Yeah.
You got to be, you know, going back again, this is Jim Rohn, right? I mean, the guy is a legend. You're the average of 5 people you spend the most time with. If you show me who your 5 friends are, I can tell you probably how much you have in your bank account or how much you reported to the IRS.
Yeah. Well, those are probably 2 different numbers, but at any rate, yeah, that's a different episode. At any rate, So that's okay. That's cool. Let me ask you this, like, where can people find you? So the name of your podcast is Real Estate Disruptors, right? Is there a Facebook group that goes with it? Where should people, if they want to learn more from you, maybe they want to check into your mentorship on the wholesaling side or check out your app, like, what's the best way for people to find you?
The best way is on Instagram. That's where I'm most responsive. You know, email basically is a black hole. Texting is not that much better. So Instagram, Steve.Trang is the best way to get a hold of me. I'm on, and then Real Estate Disruptors is on YouTube, is on iTunes. And then we do have a private Facebook group as well. If you do a search for Real Estate Disruptors, pretty much everybody's getting into there if they're trying to. So it's a pretty good community. Givers, you know, I think one of the things that I've found is there's a lot of people creating their Facebook groups right now. I don't know if you've noticed that, but there's more and more people creating Facebook groups right now. Well, you've created a great one. You know, it's very impressive what you've done. But there's more and more people doing it. And I've noticed that the personality of the Facebook group is a pretty good reflection of the guy that runs it.
Yeah, you know, there's no doubt. There's a lot of them, and they do. It's funny because there's plenty that have been around a lot longer than Next Level Agents, even, where it's pretty easy to see early on. Like, they tend to go the way of whoever created it, whether it's a couple people or just one guy or one girl or or a handful, whatever the case is, it
Yep.
definitely tends to take up their persona, if you will, because I think it's because it's the conversation that they curate, right? It's the people that are attracted to what they're doing, as well as the conversations that they bring it up to or don't bring it up.
Yeah.
Some of the groups have a lot lower level conversations than others. You guys obviously have a huge and very well respected, track record as well with the Real Estate Disruptors, what you guys are doing, because everybody I know behind your back, Steve, just says a ton of good things about what you're doing. And I think that's
Awesome.
a lot to who you are as a guy. Like, I know you as a person first. And,
Yeah.
the reality is, I think that's a good point, because there are a lot of groups out there. There's a lot of people just in our space, right? We could be buying information from or listening to their podcast. And the reality is what I like about you is you take that very seriously and work to bring value to others.
Yeah, it's important to me, right, that we do a good job. And like one of the things, I'm happy to hear you say that they speak positively about me behind my back, because like one of the things that would like just like mortify me is like, man, that guy's a fraud, or that guy doesn't know what he's talking about, or he doesn't care about people. Like those are the things that would bother me, right? If you say that guy's an idiot, it's like, yeah, whatever, I don't care about your opinion. But if you're like, man, this guy's out to screw people, we're talking about my integrity or whatever, like that would mortify me.
Yeah, dude, that's the worst. And the thing is, the bigger your podcasts get, the more views you have on YouTube, the more people that join your group, the more likely that's going to happen, right? Because you're not going to make everybody happy. And, I've definitely had my fair share of people say stuff about me that wasn't deserved. Don't get me wrong. I like to poke the bear. So a lot of it I've deserved. But
I know.
I've had people say stuff that I didn't deserve, and this wasn't true. And
yeah,
man, I'll be honest, it used to hurt me a lot more than it does now. And, actually it was a podcast conversation I was listening to with Dave Asprey and Tim Ferriss. And Dave Asprey asked everybody the same question, the top three things I asked you. And one of Tim Ferriss was, you have to, I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said, hey, you've essentially got to drown out the people that are nipping at your heels. Like, what your content and your message and your story isn't for those people. Concentrated on the folks that are buying in and want more of it, because that's where your energy's got to go. Because those are the people that appreciate what you're doing. Because there's always going to be the haters out there, whatever you want to call it. No, there's no doubt about it. But
I have those, and I just block them on Facebook. It's not worth my energy.
Yeah,
it's not even worth thinking about.
I'm with you. I block. I do the same, because I'm just like, I don't have time for it. I don't want to think about it, because I know me. Like, I like to make people happy. I feel like you. I want to make
me
people
too.
like
Yeah.
me. But if I think about it, it's going to consume me, as opposed to if I just block them, then they're gone.
Yep, absolutely.
That's awesome. All right, guys. Well, Steve, before we wrap up, any parting shots or thoughts or comments you want to leave us with?
I think, something I said before, but I still passionately believe this. There's never been a better time to be alive, and there's never been a better country to live in. So take advantage of it while you can. There's no point in consuming knowledge and learning and not doing anything with that information. Take advantage of it. Create wealth now.
Dude, I just want to highlight what you just said. There's never been a better time to be alive. There's never been a better country to live in. A lot of folks would disagree with those two statements right now, but I think it's because what they're focused on. And to me, that statement tells me what you're focused on, and it's the good, because if you just look, there literally has never been a safer time to be alive. There's never been a better time to be alive. Like, there's never been a more wealthier time. There's never been a more abundant time to be alive. And again, I also agree. Like, yeah, I love all the other countries out there too. We just happen to live in, to me, the best one for us. And dude, that's to me, that speaks volumes for what you're focused on and what you pay attention to. Because if someone doesn't believe it, I don't want to say you're wrong, but I do want to say, check yourself on what you're focused on, because what Steve just said is deep and it's accurate.
Yeah, you're either looking up or you're looking down. Either way, that's the direction you're going.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's a really good point. All right, guys. Well, check out Real Estate Disruptors. Go download the OfferFast Homes app and reach out to Steve on Instagram as well, steve.trang. And you will hopefully get as much out of him as I have over the years, and some of his students as well. I think you're going to like it. So, Steve Trang, thanks a lot for joining us today, buddy.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this.